Hey guys, welcome back to Docshala. So we are back with our series of NEET MDS 2023 recall. So in this video, we are going to see about the biochemistry question on enzyme inhibition. So let's just begin with our thing. So introduction for this is, so the enzyme inhibition refers to a decrease in enzyme related processes, enzyme production or enzyme activity. So it refers to a decrease in the enzyme related processes, enzyme production or the enzyme activity. So enzyme inhibitor is a molecule that binds to the enzyme and blocks its action. Then classification of the enzyme inhibition. So the enzyme inhibition is classified into the following types: competitive inhibition, non-competitive inhibition, uncompetitive inhibition, feedback inhibition, allosteric inhibition, and suicide inhibition. So you have to remember all this. Okay. So let's see each of it individually. What does it mean? Then coming to competitive inhibition. So the competitive inhibition is, don't just get confused with the graph that we have here. Okay, just keep your mind on the slide alone. So the features here are, the inhibitors on substrate are the structural analogs. So the inhibitors on the substrates are the structural analogs, and inhibitors bind to same site where the substrate binds. So inhibitors bind to same site where the substrate binds. So hence it is reversible. So here the x-intercept moves towards the 0. So as you can see here, so in this graph, right? So this is x-intercept and this is y-intercept. So here you can see that the x-intercept moves towards the 0. Let's consider this as a 0. Okay. And the y-intercept remains constant. Okay. Then coming to the examples that we have. So coming to the examples that we have, so we have to know examples of the drugs. Okay, especially we'll concentrate on the drugs alone in this video. So the drugs which we have as examples are statins, HMG-CoA reductase, dicameral vitamin K, epoxide reductase, methotrexate, DHF reductase, and succinyl-CoA, which is acetylcholine esterase. Other than drugs, what we have is, as an LDH, we have as a substrate as lactate and an inhibitor is oxamate. And SDH substrate is succinate and inhibitor is malonate. HMG-CoA reductase, the substrate is HMG-CoA and the inhibitor is HMG. So you can just remember, you have to by heart this all the things. Okay. Then coming to the non-competitive inhibition. So non-competitive inhibition is substrate and inhibitors are not structural analogs. So they are not structural analogs, whereas in competitive inhibition, they both are substrate and inhibitor are the structural analogs, and inhibitors bind at separate site, whereas in the competitive inhibition, inhibitors bind in the same site. Inhibitor and the substrate bind in the same site. Then Vmax decreases. Km remains constant. So most non-competitive inhibitors are irreversible. There it is reversible. So exception is trypsin inhibitors on trypsin. So examples include poisonous agents. So for example, the one which is given here, site C oxidase, cyanide, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, iodoacetate, aldehyde dehydrogenase disulfiram, and enolase fluoride, alpha KGHD. It is arsenate. Okay. Then Uncompetitive inhibition. So we have seen two types now, competitive and non-competitive, and we know the difference is what it does, right? So then coming to the uncompetitive inhibition. So here you can see this is the enzyme and this is the substrate binding site. Okay, inhibitor cannot bind with free enzyme. So here substrate is not bound yet to the enzyme, right? So hence inhibitor is not able to bind to the enzyme. So here what happens is inhibitor only binds when enzyme is already bound to the substrate. Okay. So this is the difference between the binding. Okay. So here what happens when the inhibitor binds? X-intercept moves away from 0. So you can see here X-intercept is moving away from 0. Okay, y-intercept increases. Y-intercept is increasing. So example of this is placental ALP and phenylalanine. Okay, then suicide inhibition. So suicide inhibition is a mechanism based inhibition. So it involves a mechanism. What kind of mechanism is it? So let's see. So the enzyme you know it is having an active site and also an inactive site and a compound. So using mechanism of action of enzymes, the potent inhibitor gets bind. So what happens is it is getting irreversibly bound to the enzyme. Using a mechanism of actions of the enzymes, what it happens is the inhibitor which has to get bound to the enzyme binds irreversibly. So examples of this are allopurinol, xanthine oxidase, aspirin and cyclooxygenase, difluoromethyl ornithine and ornithine decarboxylase. Okay, so this is the kind of suicide inhibition. Suicide inhibition is like the since the inhibitor is getting bound to the enzyme like irreversibly, that is it is like almost making the enzyme do the suicide right? So that's why it's called as a suicide inhibition. Okay, then feedback inhibition. So we have another type which is feedback inhibition. So the feedback inhibition involves, so here you can see the this thing. So here what is happening is in this feedback inhibition, so we have A, B, C, D. So these are all our substrates. We have enzyme 1, enzyme 2, enzyme 3 acting on these substrates, which leads to production of B from A, right? So the end product inhibition, the end product inhibits the first enzyme. That is, this end product which is formed here, this inhibits the enzyme acting here. So this is what is feedback inhibition. So the end product which is formed due to the reaction, it inhibits the first enzyme. So it inhibits the gene that transcribes and translates in the enzyme E1. So this is called as feedback inhibition. So example of it is AMP purine synthesis. In purine synthesis, AMP is the example for feedback inhibition. Okay. So coming to the question which has been asked in the previous NEET MDS 2023 is, allopurinol and xanthine oxidase inhibition is a type of. So from the discussion that we had, the answer is suicide inhibition. Okay, so it is simply that you have to memorize all of this. It is not something which you can now remember it based on the concept. So the concept is how and what kind of inhibitions are there. So the inhibition types, how they are inhibiting the enzyme. Then there's a third thing is examples of each of the inhibitions. So these and all you have to memorize. So I hope you like the video. So do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Instagram at Talkshala and at Talkshala Medical for medical content. And we are also there on Telegram. You can find a group where you can do discussions with your peers, so you can just come and just get it added into that group for further discussions. Thank you.